3 days before Thanksgiving, my phone buzzed with a message that felt like a dagger. Don't bother coming. You're not welcome here anymore. I stared at the words, seated behind the sleek glass desk in my Manhattan penthouse office, ending floors above a snow-dusted Central Park. Below, guests stepped from luxury black cars into the golden glow of the Sutton Royale Hotel. My hotel, though my family didn't know it. The irony almost made me laugh. Almost. Another message followed, dripping with entitlement. We'll be arriving at the Sutton as usual tomorrow. At least we still have our tradition, even if you've ruined everything else. Their tradition. The same 5-star hotel where the Cartwrights had hosted their lavish Thanksgiving for 25 years. The same place where I was treated like a pariah since I dared to dream beyond their mold at 17. I pressed a button on the desk phone. Ela, pull up the Cartwright Thanksgiving reservation. Already in front of me, Miss Cartwright, she replied. 3 luxury suites. Full service. I leaned back as last year's memory hit me like a punch to the chest. My proposal to use Cartwright trust funds for transitional housing was met with outrage. Our name supports museums and concert halls, not drug addicts and single mothers. My father had scoffed, brandishing the proposal like it was filth. You sound like Aunt Eleanor, my mother had sneered, referring to the family activist we'd long since erased. Honestly, Elise, sometimes I wonder if you're even a Cartwright, Caroline had added, while Mason laughed. Let her throw her pennies at the poor. Oh wait, she doesn't have any. What they didn't know? I'd quietly built a global real estate empire, and the Sutton Royale was one of 12 luxury properties I now owned. I didn't reply to my mother's message. Instead, I gifted their suites to the very people who earned them. My housekeeping team, the overnight concierge, the kitchen staff. Let my family see what not welcome really looked like. Then came another buzz. Caroline again. A smug photo of the family gathered at our childhood estate in Westchester, clinking wine glasses. The caption read, "Too bad you'll be spending Thanksgiving alone. Maybe you can serve soup at one of your shelters." I stared at it, and then I smiled, not with bitterness, but with pride. They had no idea how I'd transformed the Sutton Royale since buying it last spring. The gluttonous menus replaced by sustainable catering, a silent off-season program to help unhoused women find jobs. Already over 50 success stories. I pressed the intercom again. Connect me to Manager Darden. He answered promptly. Elise, how can I help? The Cartwright reservation, I said. Cancel it. Every suite. Every service. A pause. Cancel the entire reservation? Yes, all of it. Another pause. Would you like me to notify them? No, I said, voice like steel. I'll handle it. I opened my mother's last text and replied, Actually, the Sutton just contacted me. Your reservation has been canceled. The typing dots appeared instantly. What? That's not possible. We've had that booking since July. Not anymore. Moments later, my father's name lit up my phone, ignored. Then Caroline. Dad's calling the manager. This must be a mistake. No. Caroline, I thought, not a mistake. Just finally a moment of truth. Then, as expected, a flurry of messages. My father again. The manager says the cancellation came from the owner. This is outrageous. We're one of their most loyal clients. I took a deep breath and replied, Yes, the owner canceled it, and she's canceling all future bookings, permanently. Silence. Then my mother. Since when does a woman own the Sutton Royale? My fingers didn't tremble as I typed the answer. Since last year, when I bought it. And then the wave began. Mason. Stop playing, Elise. Caroline. This isn't funny. Even my father. What are you talking about? I opened my desk drawer and retrieved the framed deed, its golden seal glinting in the soft light. The E. Sutton Royale, owned by Cartwright Hospitality Collective, my signature at the bottom like a quiet rebellion. I snapped a photo and sent it to the family group chat. The silence was deafening. Then my mother, frantic. "This is impossible. You don't have that kind of money. You work for some little nonprofit." I actually laughed. Out loud. They still thought I ran a modest community center, completely oblivious to how I flew first class, owned a Manhattan penthouse, and spoke at international summits. They never asked how, never cared. I typed, "Check the documents, Mom. The Sutton Royale, your precious sanctuary, now belongs to the daughter you disinvited from Thanksgiving." My office phone buzzed. Ila's voice. "Your father's on the line. He's demanding to speak with the owner." I smiled. "Put him through," I said. His voice arrived sharp and fragile. "Elise, what have you done?" "Nothing yet," I replied evenly. "But maybe it's time we talked. About privilege, about legacy, about consequences. Would you prefer a call, or shall we meet in person? I have a breathtaking office with a view of your former Thanksgiving suite." The silence that followed was 20 years overdue. An hour later they entered. Caroline hiding behind oversized sunglasses, Mason tapping his watch impatiently, and my parents, pale and tight-lipped, stripped of their arrogance and cloaked now in confusion and unease. I gestured toward the chairs. "Please, have a seat." Through the massive windows behind me, the Sutton Royale shimmered, a crown jewel in my empire. "How did you afford this?" my father barked, refusing to sit. I leaned back, smile unshaken. "While you were mocking my causes, I was building an empire. If you believe in the quiet power of resilience and that karma wears designer heels, subscribe," I thought. "This isn't over." "You never once asked what I was actually doing," I said, voice soft but lethal. Too busy scoffing at my bleeding heart. Projects to see the blueprint I was drawing. "Building what?" Caroline sneered, though her voice quivered. "Cartwright Hospitality Collective," I said coolly. Their faces froze. 15 luxury resorts, spanning 3 continents, each one merging elegance with impact. Sustainable, profitable, revolutionary. My mother dropped into a chair, her mask of composure cracking. 15? "But you run a nonprofit." "No," I corrected. "I partner with nonprofits. We provide job training, transitional housing, support for rehabilitation, all integrated into the hospitality model. Just the Sutton alone has helped over 300 people rebuild their lives. Quietly. With dignity." "You're bluffing," Mason muttered. I hit the intercom. "Ela, bring the portfolio." Moments later, Ela entered with a leather binder and began distributing printed summaries. My family flipped through pages. Deeds, impact reports, financials. My father's voice was barely audible. $6 billion in assets. 40% higher profit margins than the industry average, I added. Turns out compassion scales beautifully. Caroline flung her copy on my desk. "Fine, you're rich. But canceling our Thanksgiving? That's petty." I stood, composed. Petty? Like being excluded for 2 decades? Like watching every idea I had get dismissed because it didn't align with your curated image of respectable? My mother's voice trembled. "But we're family." I chuckled gently. "Was it family when you exiled Aunt Eleanor for choosing purpose over pretense?" I pressed a button. A screen lit up, and Eleanor's face filled the room, radiant and proud. "Hello, brother dear," she said coolly to my father. "You're part of this?" he stammered. "I helped Elise acquire the Sutton," she said. "I saw what none of you ever bothered to. Vision, compassion, brilliance. You helped her take our special place?" My mother gasped. "Your special place? The one where you made her feel like a stranger for 20 years? Eleanor's voice sharpened. "She turned it into a sanctuary, while you were too blinded by champagne and tradition to notice." "We'll sue," Mason threatened. "Permanent booking rights." "Expired last month," I said. I didn't renew them. Silence fell again, dense and suffocating. Outside, Manhattan shimmered under the fading sun, life moving on, indifferent to their unraveling. Finally, my father spoke, defeated. "What do you want, Elise?" I turned to the window, then back. "I want you to understand what you missed, not just about me, but about what success really looks like." I circled my desk, standing tall. The Sutton Royale isn't just a hotel. It's proof. Proof that business can be ethical, that profit can coexist with purpose. Our properties have transformed lives, redefined hospitality, and proved that vision matters more than legacy. And we're supposed to just accept that? That you were right? Caroline snapped. "No," I said, voice calm as steel. "You're supposed to learn that success doesn't come from exclusion. It comes from elevation, from building something greater than yourself and never needing permission to own it." I tapped a button on my tablet, and the wall screen flickered to life, cycling through images that told stories deeper than numbers ever could. A mother and daughter, smiling in caps and gowns after graduating from one of our employment initiatives. A veteran proudly holding his hotel management certificate. Children in clean uniforms standing before a school in the Philippines, built from profits of our Bali resort. "This," I said, my voice softening with conviction, "this is what real success looks like. This is what you never bothered to see." My father slumped into a chair, his proud eyes suddenly clouded with something unfamiliar, regret. "I was wrong," he whispered, the confession floating heavily in the space between us, 2 decades late. "We all were," my mother added quietly, dabbing her smudged mascara with trembling fingers. Even Caroline, once fiery and defiant, said nothing. Her silence was louder than any protest. "So, what now?" Mason finally asked. I moved behind my desk, standing tall but composed. "That's up to you. Tomorrow we're hosting Thanksgiving. Right here. Not just for our guests, but for the staff, the trainees, and anyone in our programs who needs a place to feel they belong." I looked each of them in the eye. "You're welcome to join us. Not as VIPs or entitled heirs, but as people willing to listen, to grow, to change." My mother's voice cracked. "You'd still have us after everything?" I smiled gently. This was never about revenge. It was always about transformation. About giving you a second chance to see what you missed when you were too busy looking down on everything I stood for. On the screen, Aunt Eleanor beamed. "Elise built something extraordinary, James," she said, her tone firm but proud. "Not for the billions, but for the lives it's changed." My father rose slowly. "We'll need time." I nodded. "Take it, but remember, Thanksgiving dinner is at 6. If you come ready to see Sutton Royale with new eyes." They left quietly. No grand exits, no barbed comments. Just the heavy silence of awakening and the weight of their own realizations. As the door closed, Aunt Eleanor's voice rang out again, warm and proud. "You did it, sweetheart. You changed everything." I smiled at her image. "We did it. You believed in me when no one else would." She nodded. "They'll be there. Their pride is bruised, but their vision is clearing." And she was right. The next evening, they returned. Not in luxury town cars or designer arrogance, but in modest rentals, stripped of vanity, stepping into the grand ballroom now brimming with warmth and humanity. Staff members, program graduates, and people from all walks of life filled the long tables. Thanksgiving pulsed through the room, raw, real, and redemptive. My family sat among them, no longer above them, listening to stories of addiction conquered, careers begun, lives rebuilt. And they didn't interrupt. They absorbed. Caroline now heads our education partnerships, creating scholarship pathways for employees' children. Mason oversees community outreach, linking us with shelters and reentry programs across the city. Even my parents changed. They now host events at Sutton Royale, telling anyone who'll listen about their daughter, who redefined luxury with purpose. A journalist once asked me, "Why not cut them off? Why let them back in?" I showed her a photo from that night, not of them posing, but of them serving, sharing, humbled. Because, I told her, the greatest revenge isn't exclusion, it's transformation. Today, the Sutton Royale thrives, not just as a 5-star destination, but as a beacon where privilege meets purpose, where luxury carries responsibility, and where legacies are rewritten quietly but powerfully. Every Thanksgiving, we gather not as the old Cartwrights, arrogant and exclusionary, but as something better, something earned. Sometimes you have to let go of the illusion of paradise to discover the one that truly matters. And if you've followed this story, thank you. Not just for reading, but for seeing. For years, I was told my heart was too soft, my vision too naive. But I learned that empathy, when wielded with strategy, can build empires. So if this moved you, tell me, would you have forgiven them? Would you have given them a second chance? Hit that subscribe button if you believe power can be quiet, that success should lift, not isolate. And to anyone who's ever felt underestimated, don't. Waste breath proving yourself to those who won't see you. Build something undeniable. Create your own paradise, rooted not in ego, but in purpose. Because the greatest legacy you can leave isn't fortune, it's impact. And trust me, the world notices.